He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Good morning and welcome to Coast Vue, the show that celebrates the men and women who are working so hard to make coastal Mississippi a better place to live, work, and play. You know, I often talk about coastal Mississippi being this collection of coastal communities, each with its own rich history, the authentic culture, and the sense of place. We live in paradise, and this show, Coast Vue, is about celebrating how lucky we are to live here. I talk about this concept, the sense of place, on a regular basis. So what exactly is that? What is sense of place? Well, it's about geography, but it goes further than that. It's really about sort of the emotional connection that each of us has with a place. It could be here, it could be somewhere else. It's visual, it's social, it's cultural. It could actually have history attached to it. But the sense of place that exists in each of the communities that make up coastal Mississippi is what makes each of those towns different from the other. When you bring it all together, coastal Mississippi has a secret sauce, and it's that collection of communities that make this region so powerful. I call it our competitive advantage. But it takes big money, and it takes a lot of investors who are really committed to contributing toward that sense of place. These people have a vision for the customer experience, for customer service. They know what they want visitors and locals to say when they go to visit their places, and they create an experience that makes people want to come back for more. So in a recent conversation I had with Josh Morganman, he's been on the show several times. He's the top hurricane hunter in the world, rented a house in Bay St. Louis during the hurricane season. He's got an international hit TV series. He lives in Los Angeles. He grew up in New York, but he talks about Bay St. Louis now as his town. In a recent dinner that my wife Ann and I had with him in the Bay, he talked about the sense of place in the Bay that he fell in love with my wife Ann and me. But to achieve that place that he described, that sweet spot and sense of place, you have to have a big collection of monomaniacs on a mission working to make their visions become something special. What he said about us is exactly what you want people to say about us when they visit us. We're lucky in coastal Mississippi because we've got a lot of visionaries here. We got people, visionaries with money is what I call them, who are working hard to make their visions a reality. And I'm thrilled today to have two of them joining me on Coast Vue, Jourdan and Phil Nicaud of the Niko restaurant group. They're doing their part to sort of transform the downtowns of coastal Mississippi. Good morning, Jourdan and Phil.
Good morning.
It's good to see you guys. So you opened your first restaurant, Phil. You were 14. Jourdan, you were 21. You're only just 24 and 30 today. It's pretty amazing. And I look forward to kind of sharing your story with the listeners today so that people can understand the scale of your company. Jourdan, why don't you tell us the footprint across coastal Mississippi?
We go from Bay St. Louis to Ocean Springs.
Yeah. And what are the companies?
We have Fields in Bay St. Louis, Bacchus, Hotel Pass Christian, and Philip with Billups and Pass Christian. And in Biloxi, we have a Philip with Billups as well. And we're actually almost complete with Fields Steak and Oyster Bar, Fields Flights, Steak and Oyster Bar. And then in Ocean Springs, we have Charred and Rooftop.
Man, it's incredible. And visions for more and more stuff. You actually have a specific benefit. You like taking sort of old structures and transforming them. Talk about that for a second.
You know, I really do. So we've been very fortunate. You know, the initial project that we actually did was the current Hotel in Pass Christian, which was a project that had been talked about for a very long time, and had a bunch of people that had owned the property and wanted to do something like we did there, and just things had just always fallen through. So we were able to kind of purchase the plans, purchase the property, and bring back to life something that the city really wanted and everyone really wanted. We were very fortunate in that one. We're currently bringing back the old Hotel Magnolia, which was the first hotel on the Gulf Coast. I think it was 1870, and you know that's been a really awesome project as well.
Yeah. So, and there's more, but let's do this. I want to take a step back for a second. And Jourdan, while I'm having this conversation, we'll come to you next, Phil. Jourdan, you went to Tulane University. You were in pre-med. You played football there, and you dropped out. And your parents were not very happy with you, were they?
They were not happy with me at all. No, they said, I came home, told them we're going to open a restaurant, and they just said, I don't understand why. Go ahead and finish up your school and finish up your degree, and you go to med school, and then later on, if you decide you want to have a doctor, you'll have something to fall back on. And I just really wasn't willing to wait, honestly. I had an idea. I had a passion, and I saw what was going on in New Orleans, and I wanted to bring something like that back to the Gulf Coast.
Well, your dad, Kent Niko, who is the administrator for Memorial and Gulfport, I'm sure he had a vision for you, and the last thing he expected was for you to do this. But they're sort of proud of you today, aren't they?
Yeah, they've changed. They are proud of me. It took them a little while to get that to that place, but they always helped me out, and they never really said, "We're not helping you because you didn't follow vision." So they were always there to kind of be my support and my backbone as we went through all these projects.
Well, that's cool. So, Phil, you went to Ole Miss, and you ended up in New York. Tell me about that journey.
Well, when I started young, obviously, said 14, I really found a love for food. Obviously, we're not small guys, but after that, I went to Ole Miss. I was about to graduate my senior year.
Hey, Phil, hey, real quick, mention your grandmother.
My grandmother actually. So when I was about 17 when first Bacchus started.
Yeah.
And she did all the rest, like homemade dressings, and we would follow her dressings to a key, to where when she would come in the kitchen, she would try them, and if they weren't perfect, if they were missing one thing, she had the talent to tell you, hey, you're missing the capers in this dressing. Hey, the lemon juice is not here; it's bitter. And that's kind of where she taught me that the little things count in life.
Yeah. So you went to New York. So continue the story.
Yes, sir. I went to New York. I'm very close to my brother. I look up to him, and I follow his leadership. So he told me, hey, what's your passion in life? I was kind of stuck. I'd opened a club in Oxford, and he told me what's your passion, and he said, well, let's get you to culinary school. He said, obviously the best restaurants around are New York and California. ICE, who had just won #1 school in culinary, so they had both scholarships there, and I went to New York. The best part of it is it wasn't just like a French cooking school. It was more of kind of you traveled the world with different teachers, and it lasted for about 2 years. It was a lot of fun. But the best part of it is while I was there, I was going from school from 8 to about 4 p.m. and then I'd go work at different restaurants. I hopped around to about 6 restaurants, all different cuisines, and I kind of came back, and we're here now.
But during that time, though, you had an opportunity to work with some really amazing chefs. Tell about that.
Yes, anywhere from it's called Bohemian. It's a Japanese steakhouse. It's about 14 tables in there, really small, but they have them all around the world and unique places. The one that I worked at was in Soho. It was really unique, where it was just this little room who had about 10 tables. And you had to go through a hallway to get to it, and say a passcode and an email just to get in. They had places all around the world. The Amazon is one. And then from there, I went to, it's called La Nacional. It's a Spanish restaurant. I fell in love with paellas, because paella is just kind of like our jambalaya. Obviously, there's different cooking terms, but that's where I wanted to learn an aspect. And then one of my favorite restaurants, 11 Madison, which is #2 in the world as we know it. It's a Michelin star, James Beard awarding. I learned, obviously, that was one of the biggest kitchen I've actually worked in. And working on one aspect is true, like where I literally just chucked oysters for a whole month. That's what you do in that kitchen. It's not, you're doing multiple positions where we're used to down here. And it really made me care about a kitchen and fall in love with it.
Well, chefs have become famous on TV today. Iron Chef, for example. You had the opportunity to work with one yourself, didn't you?
Jose Garces, very, very talented guy. And where I learned from his aspect is I actually learned that how he occupies 7 different restaurants up there in Philadelphia, and how he takes care of each one, and the leadership of each team that he had. It's like he had 7 different families, and it was a very mind-blowing fact to me.
It's what we've all come to understand about running successful restaurants by watching these TV shows. You get to see it's so far beyond the recipe. It's about commitment to quality and how the team works together. Was that a surprise to you when you went up there to see just how, I mean, it's like a football team. Everybody's got their part. They've got to play together as a team to be successful. That was a tremendous learning, wasn't it?
That was a great, yes, it is like a football team. And obviously me and my brother are both big football players. Yes, it's like a team. You actually have to come together. And if one person's not working with it, it can burn the kitchen down. No matter if it's a prep cook in the morning or a dishwasher at night. If you're not working as a team, it definitely will bring the kitchen down and you will fail.
24 years old, buddy. I'm amazed. There's been some really successful people who are young in age. We're visiting this morning with Jourdan and Field Niko. They work in a very successful restaurant company together, and it's one of the inspiring things about having the opportunity to do this show. When you get to see two young men involved in Nico Restaurant Group and their commitment to coastal Mississippi. When we come back after the break, I want to really get into this contribution they're making, not just through their food, but through their developments, adding to the sense of place of coastal Mississippi. We'll be back with Jourdan and Field after this break.
Broadcasting safe and sound from the coastal Mississippi studios. This is Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk 103.1. Listen to Ole Miss football on SuperTalk 103.1.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. You know, one of the beauties of doing this show, I mean, I say it all the time, is I get an opportunity to connect with people who are making a difference in coastal Mississippi. And this morning is literally no different than that. I'm with Jourdan and Field Niko of the Niko Restaurant Group. They've made contributions to downtowns across coastal Mississippi. And we're going to get to that in a second. I want to ask you real quick, Jourdan, who's your hero?
Very tough question, but so obviously I've got to start off with I know that at least mine on trip does as well is our mother and father and our aunt. They've been really there to help guide us into the people that we become. And really, our family model has always been, since we're growing up, work what makes life sweet. And so, that's kind of something that we've kind of grown up learning. And so we've always been there that you have to work hard, and the harder you work, hopefully, the sweeter your life will be. And obviously, so celebrity life's, heroes would be Richard Branson or Elon Musk, who I think are really just intuitive people, and I think are very just people that are, have really just taken life, and just made their ideas to become to the future. And Richard Branson, I really, really like, it basically says, if someone gives you an opportunity, say yes and figure out how to do it afterwards.
Yeah. Well, I talk about Elon Musk regularly. He's someone I follow very closely as well, and what he's doing across the spectrum is truly remarkable. And I talked about him just specifically this week. Phil, who's your hero?
I think I have multiple, but as I obviously get in the kitchen books, doing a lot of studying, I kind of come to, I like a little bit of everybody. I like to pull some aspects from different types of styles of cooking, but if I had to get down to it, I guess it would be Emeril Lagasse. Obviously, he started very young and kind of grew, and that's where I'm at right now, and I'm trying my best at.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for Emeril myself. Had the opportunity to get to know him along the way, talk to him, when I was publisher of the Times-Picayune pretty regularly via email. And, he's very committed, not just to his trade, but to the community through his foundation. And he's such a great personality. And, we're lucky to have his connection because obviously his wife is from coastal Mississippi, and that gives us a great connection to him. What time do you get up in the morning, Phil? Just curious.
So I kind of run the day-to-day process. So it kind of goes from getting a call at before the COVID, but 3 a.m. when we had our bar open, or to, hey, at 7 o'clock, the roads are shut down and it's, and I can't get the food truck there. So we got to load it up in the truck or get a golf cart and bring it down. So kind of floats from day to day.
Yeah. What about you, Jourdan? What time do you get up in the mornings?
It's the same thing. It's kind of floats. Really depends on what time our first meeting is, and what time we end up going to bed. Because a lot of times the work I do during the day is almost all hands on. Where at nighttime it's more of a planning type, getting all the paperwork, procedural work done. So usually they're going to bed around 12 to 1 a.m. So
you don't get a lot of sleep is basically what you're saying. But that's true. Hey, listen, that's true of any monomaniac on a mission. You got work to do, and you can't defer that to other people. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, when I talked about sense of place at the beginning of the show, Jourdan, you really get that, don't you?
As far as what?
Sense of place, this ability to create this place that people want to come to add to the sense of place.
Well, that's been kind of fortunately how we basically we open restaurants and run restaurants is basically what we look for is vacancies in the market. So places, so areas where, hey, there isn't a great steakhouse over here, or hey, there's a restaurant that needs to be here, or hey, Mexican restaurant needs to be here. And kind of what we do is we go to the market, kind of listen to all the customers or people that are around the area and have them tell us what needs to be there, and from there we develop the concept to match with what they're telling us.
Well, that's cool. So what has evolved though? You've gone beyond restaurants. Like for example, the development you recently did in Ocean Springs is mixed use. Talk about that.
Yeah, so that's going to be an awesome development. Hopefully, opens up November 4th. And what it is you have a restaurant downstairs. We're going to have 4 hotel rooms on the 2nd story and a rooftop bar on the 3rd story, and trying to get that live, work, play lifestyle over there.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to a similar thing with Josett in Biloxi. It's going to be an apartment complex that'll have about 4 commercial aspects there, and it'll be the same thing. It'll be a live, work, play concept. And then in Gulfport, we're redeveloping the old Village Square, and that's going to be something that we're really excited about. And it's going to be almost like a startup type place for people who want to have small businesses or small offices, and almost like an incubator. We're trying to let people come to that area and see everyone else's visions and develop their own ideas.
What I love about the synergies that the two of you are creating together. So, Phil, you've gone off and you've learned the intricacies of how to be successful in a successful restaurant operation. And Jourdan, you've been sort of branching out and beginning to understand development better and what communities need. But the way y'all come together, I mean, like a great example for just to mention this is that with the development in Ocean Springs that you just mentioned, where you're going to have hotels and the rooftop bar and then the restaurant down below, Phil, what you brought to the table in that is a very unique approach to tacos, for example, that you have envisioned for that place. Talk about that for a second.
As we talked about earlier, I worked under Jose Garces. I obviously, in a Hispanic background, I worked in all 7 of his kitchens, and I kind of saw the way he did it, but I brought a kind of a coast life to it, to where I did crawfish tacos, I did crab cake tacos, where he was not doing that kind of stuff in Philadelphia, but I got a creative mindset where my brother came in and told me, hey, I believe this is work. I know the people around here. Let's get this kind of restaurant down here. And so I just started going to the drawing pads, like what I like calling it.
It's really cool. And the artwork, for example, how that evolved and how that sort of defined things. Talk about that for a second.
That was all his.
Jourdan, talk about it.
Well, really want to do a mural. We kind of purchased a property that had been sitting in downtown for a little while, and it was about halfway done. And we wanted to kind of give some more life to that property, and wanted to have a mural that kind of stood for what Ocean Springs is, what the Gulf Coast is. And we actually did a little Facebook campaign where we had a bunch of artists to submit ideas and had a cash prize for them for the winning idea. And we let people on Facebook, and I think Sunherold helped out a little as well, and let them all vote on it. And fortunately, everyone voted, and Kayla did a great job on it. And it just came out looking really, really great.
It definitely brings your eyes to the building.
Say it again now.
It definitely brings your eyes to the building.
Yeah, it is. It is cool. So It's about, I love the fact that you're young and you've reached out into social media world. You've got someone actually running your social media for you today. You're really smart from a marketing point of view. Field, you talked about the wow factor. Tell me more about what you were referring to.
So the wow factor is kind of when the plate gets put in front of you, is what I call it. Is yes, you always want to make your food taste good. Obviously, presentation you want it to like take good, but when it comes to your table, I want more of a chef. And that's what my new restaurant, Field of Flights, is going to be coming, is that we're going to actually mind-blow people with this aspect when it hits your table. I do a little bit of a field steak and oyster bar where the steak comes out on fire. We're at Rooftop where we do the levels of the pizza, Mexican pizza. And where Milton will actually do a carving at your table. And that's kind of what I'm going for at this new place, but a little bit more in depth, where we'll have the flight aspect, where everybody's kind of wondering what we're going to do, what is flights, and everybody's thinking beer flights, wine flights. There will be food flights. Kind of, I want to go into an aspiration of 3 different dishes in one.
Well, you mentioned Milton, but that's Chef Milton Joachim who's going to be involved in that project. And you also talked about one of the things I love about it. You took some ideas from New Orleans. You're actually going to have aging meat where people can see it. Tell about that.
One of my all-time favorites, and I think his too, is Doors Metropolitan. And when you walk in their restaurant, they have an aging room. And I actually started getting more divine into my aging room. We'll be aging steaks with bacon grease over it and doing other cool aspects of that I'm excited to bring to the coast.
So when I was involved in media, the company that I worked for was in One World Trade, the World Trade Center. And so I was in New York all the time. And I got to go to some of the best restaurants in the city. And the process that they went through to age their meat was unbelievably refined. And most people most people who don't know the process don't realize just how significant that is to create an amazing cut of meat. Tell a little bit about that.
I mean, it definitely puts your work up to a dish. It's not one of those things where you get the dish that day and you create the aspect. You have to wait over 40 to 60 days to serve that dish. So you got to think of it as my chefs. All my chefs are very young. We're trying to go for the kind of the young generation. The guy that's going to be cooking at Field of Flights with me he's only 24 too, and he's from Charlotte. He's a great cook, but the passion he puts into it is what I look for. The love factor. And the aging part is kind of what I say, the love factor. You can't just, hey, this dish is going to be created now. You have to wait these 60 days and prepare yourself. Hey, it's going to be on my food cost at the end of the month. Am I willing to put that on me?
There is a wow factor to that. We're out of time, guys, but look, we're going to come back together again as you continue to evolve and you have more to talk about as it relates to your restaurant openings, et cetera. But you're both an inspiration, and it's been a real pleasure and honor to have the opportunity to meet Jourdan. You. I've been hearing lots about you and Build You. The collaboration between the two of you is really outstanding. And I just want to thank you on behalf of Coastal Mississippi. Thank you for your commitment to creating a better sense of place in Coastal Mississippi. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Ricky.
It's my pleasure. When we come back, we have Mayor Fofo Gillage of Biloxi.